We're coming off of a 9-month long one, Canada to Mexico on the west.
It's very cool.
Thank you.
And you're raising donation, or you're funded by donation.
Yeah, we document the journey. So people that appreciate what we do, it's largely about training healthier perspectives. Obviously the walk subjects you to a lot of difficulty and a lot of people.
Yeah, I can deal with the difficulty more than the people. I'm a biologist, ecologist by training.
Oh.
By training and lifestyle. I do this run into town for groceries about every 2 weeks. The rest of the time I'm in the woods. I used to be a major backpacker. I never walked as much as you guys did. I did, 16 days or so, mostly in the Colorado Rockies.
Yeah.
So I can value your walking, and this is a really good idea.
Thank you. Yeah, our last segment was all backpacking, but it's a lot harder to do it in a backpack.
I'm gonna move to that side.
I'm just turned 76. The main reason I love this device, I don't own a car. I just live in the next town over. I can get everywhere in this area that I want to on this. Groceries, dentists, well, not dentists, but doctor's appointments, hardware, everything. But mostly I have camps, and so I've got 5,000 acres just north of where I live, where I can ride this in. This is my camp wagon. My sleeping gear is off the back because I need to get groceries, but insulation here, extra clothing, I can carry as much food as I want, etc., etc. So I can relate to what you're doing, just being outside. Are you trying to recruit people to do what you do? No.
No, we're content creators, and we're trying to share what we're learning about all the ways that we can train our thoughts to get along with our fellow man better despite our differences, and all the ways that we can overcome challenges and find contentment under nearly any circumstance.
Is there an underlying philosophy or set of principles, Buddhist, Christian?
Oh, it's a synthesis of a lot of things, I would say. Big fans of Stoicism, Taoism, Buddhism, right. But some of it comes from contemporary cognitive psychology and cognitive behavioral therapy.
Are you trained in that?
I am just thirsty for knowledge, yeah.
Okay.
Rather than read something like a novel, you'd catch me reading something like the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy.
Same way.
I like densely packed material as much as I can get my hands on. I'm not really into like self-help books or, right. It's like, what's the famous one now? It's like Atomic Habits, I think. It's a big self-help book that a lot of people like, but it's borrowing, and it's a stripped down version of a lot of these other things that really have a lot more detail to them. If I understand correctly, Stoicism even shares some roots with cognitive behavioral therapy.
Doubt it.
I think that there were two guys largely involved in what we now consider cognitive behavioral therapy that were inspired by the Stoics. Things like the dichotomy of control, for example. There's stuff within our control. There's stuff outside of our control. Everything within our control occurs internally. Everything outside of our control occurs externally. The opinions of other people, health, wealth, where we're born. But if we desire that the stuff which is truly only outside of our control, because it could always be swept away from us, should be within our control, we're always going to be a slave to our own mind.
Do you consider yourselves to be minimalists in any way?
To a certain degree, yeah.
I tend to, minimalism is kind of overused. I live in a 500 square foot apartment. That's all I ever need. This is all I need. I've had owned cars or trucks all my life. I don't need one now, and this is way cheaper. So my lifestyle always has been, but especially since I got up here, if I don't need it, I'm not a collector of stuff. I really like to have what I really need, for day to day. It sounds like you're kind of in that realm as well, not a big collector of stuff.
Bringing
just
up
more
Buddhism.
clutter in the mind.
She's right, yeah. Every attachment is a sort of psychological taxation. Yeah. And you don't really realize it until you get rid of all of it.
That's so true.
Yeah.
I moved to Maine from Portland, Oregon
Hmm.
in 2010. I'd been in Oregon for 10 years. After I finished my PhD in 1990, I taught community college for 8 years. And then I came into some money through an inheritance, substantial amount, and opened a little school of science and mathematics in Eugene, Oregon.
Oh, we walked
Okay.
Eugene.
What's that?
We walked through there.
So,
Sorry.
yeah, it's an interesting community. It was not right for me, but it was an interesting place. But I love teaching, and I opened it to be able to teach something called complexity sciences.
Okay.
It's like systems, but better. And I think of it as, it's what turned me on as a biologist, evolutionary ecologist. Complexity, in my mind, is to biology what quantum physics was to Newtonian physics back in the early 1800s. It was just like quantum physics said to the physicist, you haven't even asked the right questions yet. It's a whole different realm of understanding, and it really changed our understanding of what physics is. Complexity has done that for biology. Complexity has blew the doors off of everything I learned through a BS in biology, a master's in biology, a second master's in probability theory, and a PhD in evolutionary ecology, University of New Mexico. And when I got finished with the PhD at New Mexico, I thought, there's still two questions I can't answer. What exactly is life? Just a basic definition, life is blah, 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 blah. The biology text couldn't answer that. And the other one for me as an evolutionist was, how did this start? It turns out that complexity has really neat answers to both of those. And I was so captivated by it, wanted to teach it at the community college. The curriculum committee said, no, sorry, you got to teach the old stuff. So I quit, moved to Oregon, and opened a school of complexity. I loved teaching it, kept the doors open for 10 years, had about 400 students, 70 of which became advanced students. But business, what was I thinking? Trying to do the whole business and books and, all that kind of stuff. So I headed to the end of the story, moved from Portland, Oregon, fell in love with a woman from Maine who visited her family in Oregon, closed the doors out there, moved to Maine to continue that relationship. That relationship lasted about 15 minutes. I was like, oh, okay. Now what do? Look at this place. This is beautiful. I've been here ever since.
I'm with you. I'm not a big fan of our contemporary frameworks. I think that in some ways, it's not that science itself as a methodology has, but scientists have gotten a little lost in the sauce.
I agree.
One of the things that I've written about rather extensively, not that anyone is as interested in that as they are in the walk, is the nature of consciousness. And, you've got your two schools of thought, physicalism and dualism, but I see it as the fallacy of the excluded middle. I think that there's a middle ground that we can look at, a non-dualistic middle ground. And so I'm a big fan of, and I need to look into it more. And there's somewhere between analytical idealism and panpsychism that I think bridges the gap a little bit better.
What's the quick thumbnail sketch difference between those two?
So basically consciousness is pervasive within all things, you would say. The same stuff that, like, we emerge out of the universe. We consider ourselves to be separate from the universe, like in the way that we conceptualize it. But it's
I don't.
right. But really that all boils down to our conceptual frameworks. And those two blow open that and they say, no, there's an intrinsic nature to reality, right? We know that because we're material beings and we have an intrinsic nature. We experience it through this locus of awareness that we call ego. And it's very likely that there's some intrinsic nature to the rest of everything else. Science obviously doesn't have the ability to test against that. Falsifiability just kind of bakes that out of the equation for science. It describes how things work. It can never tell you why they work the way they do. It can tell you how they operate in relation to one another. It can never tell you about what their inner nature is like. And so as you get further down the line from human to barnacle, Venus flytrap, at some point we say, like your concerns with regard to, it's hard to define what life is. We just draw an arbitrary line. Oh, life stops here. Oh, consciousness stops here. But the same systems of processes are kind of interwoven within all of it.
I totally agree with that. There's a concept, I bet you've heard of it before. One of the major concepts in complexity sciences, which I say complexity sciences, it hasn't coalesced into a single science yet. The complexity sciences, like I taught, were started with a guy named Ilya Prigogine. He was a Nobel laureate in 1986 for coming up with an idea called dissipative systems, self-organization.
Yeah.
Life is a self-organizing system. We start as an egg, fertilized egg, here we are, right? Prigogine developed that whole set of ideas and won the Nobel Prize for it. In addition to him, there's a component called emergence.
Yeah.
Whole is greater than the sum of the parts, right?
So one of the principles behind panpsychism and analytical idealism is that when you look at subjective experience coming out from matter, which is supposed to have no subjective experience, it would be a case of radical emergence, which we have no really good examples for. Everything in emergence...
Oh, sure.
Hello.
Not about
No, you're good.
Everything in emergence, it's the whole, its component parts have some sort of relation to what the whole, the way they're expressed through the whole. But as a matter of subjective experience, it's different than matter. It's entirely unlike its component parts. I'm sorry, real quick. Oh!
Yeah. We have just a few minutes of wiggle room.
Picking us up at 5, and we gotta get off the trail before.
Yeah, what time is it?
It's 4:20.
You're within it, but you gotta go. Do you do email?
Yeah.
I will send you, so there's emergence, there is dissipative structures, there's a whole branch of mathematics called fractal geometry.
Mm-hmm.
There is, it used to be called chaos theory.
Yep.
This is kind of a misnomer. It's not really chaotic, it's edge of chaos, a whole different thing. Put all those things together with the big component that I think you would resonate most with, an idea called autopoiesis. Autopoiesis and cognition are basically one and the same in that particular view. And they're both, well, especially Varela, who I think is still alive, came out of the kind of a Buddhist perspective and then developed the science sort of on the end of it. So I think you would, with your interest in consciousness, I think you'd find it very fruitful, thought-provoking at least, whether you'd agree with it or not. And I'll give you I'll repeat this in email. My definition of life is that life is an emergent property of autopoietic dissipative systems.
We probably ought to boogie.
Yes, you should.
Walking America Couple, it shouldn't be too hard to find us.
I'll remember that.
And the series on our website, there is a consciousness series on
Oh,
there,
excellent.
and it's not truly academic in nature. We write it for a following that
Okay.
follows us around the country. So I've tried to make it digestible to some degree,
I
but
refer
Fairly
to
my
academic.
interest.
I refer to myself as a recovering academic.
Yeah, so perfect. Yeah, you might take it.
I probably need to start the recovery process.
Yeah.
I'm Torin. Good to meet you.
Torin,
Yeah, Torin.
pleasure.
Paige.